Harper Quinn had 4 minutes to convince someone, anyone, that she was worth saving, or she would become another statistic by spring. For 9 months she had survived Cincinnati's streets after escaping the man who was supposed to protect her. But when she dropped to her knees on icy concrete to save a stranger's daughter, she triggered the largest brotherhood mobilization in Ohio history. And the part nobody saw coming. The girl everyone had been stepping over was about to become untouchable. "Please don't die. Please, I can't watch someone else die." The words came out broken, desperate, between compressions that Harper's malnourished arms could barely maintain. She had been doing CPR for 8 minutes. Her wrists screamed where the old fracture had never healed right. Her vision blurred from exhaustion, pneumonia, and 9 months of never having enough to eat. But she could not stop. She could not let Camila Rivera, this girl she had never met, this teenager in an oversized Hells Angels jacket, slip away on a frozen sidewalk while 30 people stood in a circle recording on their phones. Harper had been sitting against the brick wall outside Riverside Roastery for hours, trying to absorb warmth through a discarded coffee cup she had pulled from the trash, watching people stream in and out like she was invisible, which, to most of them, she was. The oversized navy hoodie she wore did almost nothing against the Ohio winter. The pink high-top sneakers on her feet were held together with safety pins and duct tape. She weighed 98 pounds at 5'4", 17 years old, but looking closer to 14 because starvation does that. It makes you smaller. It makes you disappear. She had already been rejected 4 times that morning. The young couple who pulled away like she carried disease. The elderly man who called the barista over to ask if she was allowed to be there, speaking about her in the third person while she stood right there. The college girl with a social work textbook who said, "I'm studying, I can't help you," without even looking up. And then the church group. 4 women in matching Faith in Action ministry shirts, planning a homeless outreach event. Harper had approached carefully, voice soft, asking if they knew about any shelters with space. The leader had looked at her like she was a problem to be solved, not a person to be helped. "Honey, handouts don't help. You need to take responsibility for your choices. God helps those who help themselves." The sound of the coffee shop door opening saved her from having to respond. She backed away, retreated to her spot against the brick wall, wrapped her thin arms around her torso, trying to make herself smaller, trying to take up less space in a world that had made it clear there was no space for her. That was when Camila Rivera stepped out. 16 years old, dark hair in a ponytail, wearing her father's Hells Angels leather jacket because she had borrowed it that morning, and he had laughed and said it looked better on her anyway. Camila took 3 steps. Her hand went to her chest. The coffee cup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the icy sidewalk. Harper saw it in slow motion. The way Camilla's eyes went wide, the way her knees buckled, the way her body hit the concrete with a sound that would echo in Harper's nightmares for months. And around them, 20, 30 people. Phones out immediately, recording, watching through screens. No one moved. No one dropped to help. Harper understood something in that instant about how the world works. How people can witness suffering and still choose comfort over courage. How easy it is to film tragedy, but how terrifying it is to touch it. Her oversized sneakers scraped concrete as she scrambled to her feet. 40 feet covered in seconds that felt like hours. She dropped hard to her knees beside Camila, hands already moving into position. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. Lauren Brennan, ER nurse for 15 years before the car accident that took everything. Lauren had taught Harper CPR at age 12, because you never know when you'll be the only one who can help. Harper checked for breathing. Nothing. Checked for pulse. Nothing. "Someone call 911, her voice cracked, hoarse from disuse and cold. But her hands were already laced together, already positioned on Camilla's sternum, already beginning the compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The rhythm her mother had drilled into her, the beat of staying alive, 30 compressions, 2 breaths, repeat, don't stop, don't ever stop until help arrives or the person breathes. After 2 minutes, her vision started to blur. After 4, she tasted blood from biting her lip to stay focused. After 6, tears were streaming down her face because this girl could not die. Could not just die while everyone watched. "Please," Harper sobbed, compressions never stopping. "Please don't die. Please, I can't watch someone else die." What Harper did not see through her tears and exhaustion was one man in the crowd making a phone call. "Reaper, you need to get to Riverside Roastery now. It's Camila. She collapsed. Some homeless kid is doing CPR, but just get here fast." Diego Reaper Vargas was 3 minutes away when his phone rang. Road captain of the Hells Angels Ohio chapter, former Marine Corps medic with 2 tours in Iraq. He was on his bike in 30 seconds, roaring through Cincinnati streets at speeds that would have gotten him arrested if he had cared about anything except reaching his daughter. Minute 7. Harper's arms were shaking so badly she could barely maintain compressions. Her hands, scarred from rope burns, marked with an old cigarette burn on the back of the right one, were slipping with sweat despite the cold. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on. Come on." Minute 8. Camila's chest jerked, a gasp, wet and desperate. Her eyes flew open, unfocused, terrified, but open. Harper sat back, shaking, sobbing, hands covered in coffee stains and sidewalk grit. Sirens in the distance grew closer, then a sound that drowned out everything else, the deep, thunderous roar of a motorcycle engine being pushed to its limits. Diego's Harley exploded into the parking lot. He was off the bike before it fully stopped. 6'2", 240 pounds of leather and ink and protective fury. He took in the scene in one sweep, his daughter on the ground, oxygen returning to her body, paramedics just arriving, and this skeletal teenage girl sitting on frozen concrete looking like she was about to shatter. Their eyes met. Diego had seen wounded people before. In Fallujah, in Ramadi, in field hospitals, where boys barely old enough to vote bled out. He knew what survival looked like, what it cost. This girl had survived something, multiple things, the kind that hollow you out and leave only the core behind. He moved slowly, deliberately, the way you approach something wounded that might bolt, dropped to one knee in front of Harper, never breaking eye contact. Then he shrugged off his leather jacket, his own Hells Angels cut visible underneath, and draped it around her shaking shoulders. The jacket was huge on her, warm from his body heat, smelled like leather and motorcycle exhaust and something Harper had almost forgotten existed. Safety. "You saved my daughter's life," Diego said, voice steady, calm. The voice of a man who had made promises in war zones and kept them. "You're safe now." Harper could not speak, could only stare at this man who looked like every stereotype of danger her entire life had taught her to fear. But he had given her his jacket, positioned his body between her and the crowd that was still filming, made eye contact, direct, steady, unwavering. He saw her, actually saw her. Then he did something that broke Harper completely. Diego placed his right fist over his heart, then extended it toward her, palm up, the biker sign of deepest respect, of blood debt. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for not walking away." From the stretcher, Camila reached out weakly. Her hand found Harper's. "Thank you," she whispered through the oxygen mask. "Thank you for not walking away." Harper's notebook fell from her backpack as paramedics helped her up. Pages covered in her mother's handwriting from years ago. CPR instructions, anatomy notes, and newer entries, dates and times. Words she had written down verbatim because she knew one day they might be the only proof she had. Diego noticed it. Noticed the medical terminology, the careful documentation, the way Harper moved, favoring her left wrist, the shallow breathing of someone fighting infection. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Harper," her voice barely above a whisper. "Harper Quinn." "Harper," Diego nodded once. "I'm Diego. My brothers call me Reaper. And I need you to understand something. You saved my daughter. That means you're under club protection now. That's not charity. That's blood debt. You understand?" Harper shook her head. She did not understand. Could not process what was happening, because 9 months on the street had taught her that good things did not happen to girls like her. "You're coming with us," Diego continued. To the hospital. You need medical attention. Don't argue, I can see it. And then you're going to tell me who hurt you. Because I can see that too. The rope burns on your wrists, the way you flinched when I moved. The fact that you're 17 years old and sleeping on streets in February. I can't, Harper's voice cracked. I can't go to a hospital. They'll call him. They'll send me back. Who's him? Harper looked at Diego, this man who had just sworn protection to a stranger. At his daughter on the stretcher, breathing because Harper had refused to give up. At the notebook in his hands with her mother's stethoscope tucked inside, the only thing she had left of Lauren Brennan. And she made a choice, the kind that changes everything. Derek Harlan, she whispered. My mother's boyfriend. He was supposed to take care of me after she died. Instead, he locked me in a basement, starved me, broke my wrist, spent my inheritance, and I heard him on the phone saying that by spring, I'd be gone, that accidents happen to kids on the street. The words came out in a rush, 9 months of silence breaking like a dam. Diego's jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists, but his voice stayed steady. How much inheritance? 180,000 from my mum's life insurance. I'm the beneficiary, but he's the trustee until I turn 18. That's in 9 months. He's already spent most of it, and if I die before then, he gets what's left. Diego stood, pulled out his phone, and made a call that would change everything. Priest, it's Reaper. I need every brother within 200 miles at the clubhouse now. We've got a minor, 17, escaped from abuse. Guardian spent her inheritance and is waiting for her to die on the street so he can collect the rest. She just saved Camila's life. Yeah, every single one. Within 30 minutes, phones across Ohio were ringing. Emergency call-outs going to every patched member, every prospect, every brother who had ever worn the Hells Angels cut. At the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, Harper sat in an examination room wrapped in Diego's jacket. Dr. Elena Doc Morales worked gently, documenting injuries, taking photographs, noting severe malnutrition, untreated pneumonia, partially healed fractures, BMI of 14.8. Harper, you're dangerously underweight, Dr. Morales said quietly. Your body is starting to shut down. Another month like this. She did not finish, did not need to. Diego sat in the corner silent, taking in every word, every piece of evidence. The wrist? Broken 11 months ago, never properly set, healed incorrectly. The rope burns, consistent with prolonged restraint, weeks, possibly months. Diego nodded once, pulled out his phone again. This time he called someone different, Harlan Bones Whitaker, who had spent 20 years as a Cincinnati homicide detective before retiring early because of the corruption he had witnessed. Bones, I need you at UC Medical now, and bring Kai. We've got a case to build. 30 minutes later, Harlan walked in, still carrying himself like a cop. Behind him came Kai, Wire Nakamura, 28, youngest patched member, former Army intelligence, could pull digital evidence from devices people thought they had wiped clean. Harper told her story again, this time with more details. The progression of abuse, the isolation, the system failures. I called CPS 8 months ago. They came to the house. Derek showed them a fake bedroom, not the basement storage room I actually stayed in. Showed them forged homeschool records. The caseworker said everything looked fine. Case closed. Caseworker's name? Robert Hayes. And you tried to file a police report 6 months ago. I went to the District 1 station, told them I was being held against my will. The officer called Derek. Derek showed up with documents saying I had behavioral problems, history of lying. The officer told me to stop wasting police time and sent me back with him. The punishment for that attempt had been severe. Bones and Kai exchanged looks. They knew what that meant, knew the pattern. Harper pulled out the notebook from her backpack. The pages waterproofed in a plastic bag. Inside were dates, times, conversations she had overheard, bank statements she had photographed before escaping, insurance documents. My mum died 14 months ago. Car accident, single car collision. Derek said it was ice on the road, but the accident report said it was 45 degrees that night. No ice, and her brake lines were severely worn, even though the car was only 3 years old. The insurance policy paid out $180,000 to Harper. Derek was trustee. Bank statements showed he had withdrawn $127,000 so far, paid off his mortgage, bought a truck, gambling debts. About $53,000 left. 3 weeks before she escaped, she heard him on the phone late at night. He thought she was asleep in the basement. The air vent carried sound from the kitchen. She read verbatim. "Yeah, I know it sounds bad, but the money's almost gone anyway. She turns 18 in November. Then I lose control of the whole thing. No, I'm not suggesting. Look, accidents happen. Kids on the street overdose, freeze to death, get assaulted. If something happened naturally, the remaining $53,000 goes to me as next of kin since she has no family. It's not like with Lauren. That was actually an accident. This is just letting nature take its course. I stop feeding her. I make winter hard enough. She either runs or gets sick. Either way, it solves itself. By spring, this is done. Memorial service. Sad story about troubled teen. And I can finally move on with my life." The room went silent. The kind of silence that happens when evil becomes real instead of theoretical. Elias Priest Navarro read Diego's text message twice, then stood in the center of the clubhouse and made an announcement that would ripple across 3 Ohio chapters. "Brothers, we have a 17-year-old girl named Harper Quinn who just saved Reaper's daughter's life. She's been on our streets for 9 months, running from a man who was supposed to protect her. A man who's stolen her inheritance and is actively waiting for her to die so he can keep the money. A man who killed her mother for insurance money and is now planning to do the same to her." The room went quiet. 40 men, all wearing their cuts, all waiting. This isn't a request for volunteers. This is a mobilization. I want every brother from Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland ready to roll by dawn tomorrow. We're going to investigate Derek Harlan. We're going to build a case that puts him in prison for the rest of his miserable life. And we're going to make sure Harper Quinn survives to see her 18th birthday. All in favor? Every single hand went up, not a moment's hesitation, not a single dissenting voice. By dawn, the largest coordinated mobilization in Hells Angels, Ohio history had begun. 180 motorcycles, 3 chapters, 1 mission: protect Harper Quinn, destroy Derek Harlan, prove that justice does not always come from badges. Sometimes it comes from leather and chrome and men who understand that protecting the vulnerable is sacred duty. And it all started because one homeless girl refused to walk past someone who needed help. Because Harper Quinn had learned from her mother that you act when you are the only one who can. That courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to kneel on frozen concrete and fight death for 8 minutes while everyone else just watches. Derek Harlan had made one critical miscalculation. He had assumed Harper was alone, that she would die invisible on streets where no one cared, that his plan would work because the system had already failed her 4 times. What he did not account for was that sometimes the people who look most dangerous are exactly the ones who will burn down hell itself to protect an innocent. And the Hells Angels were about to teach him that lesson in ways he would never forget. The bikes rolled in like a storm. Leather jackets bearing the same insignia. Chrome gleaming in the early light. Faces set with purpose. They parked in perfect formation along both sides of the street. Engines cutting off in waves until only silence remained. Elias Priest Navarro stood at the center. 58 years old, silver beard trimmed neat, reading glasses hanging from a chain around his neck. Former army chaplain who had lost his own daughter to domestic violence 15 years earlier and had spent every day since making sure no other child suffered that fate. Everyone clear on the mission? This is an evidence operation. We're not here for vengeance. We're here to build a case so airtight that Derek Harlan spends the rest of his life in a cage. We do this right. We do this legal. And we do it so thoroughly that every system that failed Harper has to answer for it. The operation began with the coordinated efficiency of men who had ridden together for years. This was not a protest fueled by anger. This was a peaceful stand, military precision. They collected statements from neighbors who had heard screaming and done nothing. They photographed the basement window, the padlock, the new truck bought with Harper's money. They pulled financial records, insurance documents, deleted emails, text messages. They found the pattern. Lauren Brennan's death was no accident. Derek had killed her for the insurance money, then positioned himself as Harper's guardian to steal her inheritance too. This was his second victim. At 2:30 that afternoon, Harlan Bones Whitaker walked up to Derek Harlan's front door and knocked firmly. Marcus opened it, clean-shaven, reading glasses perched on his nose, wearing khakis and a polo shirt. He looked confused, annoyed, like a man interrupted during a normal Saturday afternoon of home maintenance. Behind Bones, 180 motorcycles lined the street. 180 men in leather, watching, waiting. Derek Harlan? Yes? I'm Harlan Whitaker, former Cincinnati PD. I'm here regarding Harper Quinn. Bones watched Derek's face carefully. We know she's been homeless for 9 months. We know about the basement room, the starvation, the stolen inheritance, and we know what you said on the phone about letting accidents happen to kids on the street. Derek's expression stayed smooth, practiced. I don't know what you're talking about. Harper ran away 9 months ago. I've been searching for her. Funny. We pulled that report. You filed it 8 months ago, 1 month after she disappeared, and you marked her as a chronic runaway with behavioral issues. No Amber Alert, no active search, just a paper trail to cover yourself. Bones laid it all out. Bank records, witness statements, medical evidence, Harper's notebook with the verbatim phone conversation. Derek's face went carefully blank. I'd like to speak to my attorney. That's your right. 3 Cincinnati PD cruisers pulled up. Detective Lena Torres stepped out. Derek Anthony Harlan, you're under arrest. They read him his rights, right there in the driveway, weapons drawn, voices loud and commanding. Derek's face scraping against the hood of the truck he had bought with Harper's money. The same hands that had broken Harper's wrist now wrenched behind his back. The neighbors came out to watch, all of them standing on their porches, watching justice arrive 9 months too late. At the clubhouse, Harper sat with Camila and Dr. Elena Morales. She heard about the arrest by phone. Diego called her personally. It's done. He's in custody. The evidence we've collected is overwhelming. He's going to prison for a very long time, and we're still investigating your mother's death. The medical examiner is reopening that case. Harper could not speak, could only hold the phone while tears ran down her face. Camila wrapped an arm around her. Dr. Morales squeezed her hand. You're safe, Diego said. Finally, you're safe. Elias Priest Navarro called a meeting. All 180 brothers present. Brothers, we came together for Harper Quinn to protect her, to get justice. Today, Derek Harlan was arrested and charged with 6 felonies. But this isn't the end of our work. Harper turns 18 in 9 months. Until then, she needs protection. Housing, medical care, education, legal support. We made a promise to her. Now we keep it. All in favor of establishing full club protection until she reaches majority. Every single hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation, not a single dissenting voice. 180 men voting unanimously to protect a girl who had saved one of their own, because that is what brother really means. Justice had been served, but justice was only the beginning. Emergency custody was granted to the state of Ohio with the Hells Angels Ohio chapter, designated as Harper's temporary guardians pending her 18th birthday. By the end of February, Harper was living in an apartment 3 blocks from the clubhouse. 2 bedrooms furnished by brothers who had pooled resources together. Rent paid 6 months in advance by club funds. Not charity, Priest had insisted, but investment in family. Dr. Morales visited daily for the first 2 weeks, monitoring refeeding syndrome, teaching Harper's body how to process food again. Small portions, 6 times a day. It would feel like nothing at first, but in a month she would notice the difference. Kai set up security, cameras, reinforced locks, a panic button that connected directly to the clubhouse. Harlan handled the legal coordination. Derek took a plea deal, 8 years in state prison, no parole eligibility for 5. The day of sentencing, Harper sat in the courtroom with Diego on one side and Camila on the other. Priest and Dr. Morales behind them, Harlan standing near the prosecutor's table, Kai in the back documenting everything. Judge Maria Costello looked at Derek in his orange jumpsuit and delivered a statement that would be quoted in every news article about the case. Mr. Harlan, You were entrusted with the care of a minor child who had just lost her mother. Instead of protecting her, you imprisoned her. Instead of nurturing her, you starved her. Instead of honoring the memory of the woman who trusted you, you killed her for money, and then attempted to do the same to her daughter. You are a predator who wore the mask of respectability while committing acts of calculated cruelty. The court sentences you to 8 years in state prison. I only wish the law allowed me to give you more. After the sentencing, Detective Lena Torres approached Harper in the hallway. This case changed how our office handles abuse reports. We're implementing new protocols. It won't bring back the time you lost, but it might save the next Harper Quinn. Outside the courthouse, the press was waiting. Diego positioned himself between Harper and the crowd, creating a shield. Other brothers formed a protective circle. Priests spoke on the courthouse steps with 180 brothers behind him. Today, justice was served. But this story isn't about bikers or patches or leather jackets. It's about a 17-year-old girl who chose courage over comfort, who saved a stranger's life when everyone else just watched, who survived 9 months of hell because she refused to disappear. Harper Quinn is everything right with this world, and Derek Harlan represents everything wrong. We protected her because that's what family does, and we'll keep protecting her until she doesn't need us anymore. 6 months later, on Harper's 18th birthday, the clubhouse was decorated with streamers and balloons. A chocolate cake with vanilla frosting, Harper's favorite, sat on a table surrounded by presents. 75 people crammed into the space, brothers and their families, Camila and her friends from soccer, Dr. Morales, Harlan and Kai, Detective Torres, Dr. Kim, even Judge Costello. Harper stood in the center wearing jeans that actually fit her 120-pound frame. A Hells Angels t-shirt Camila had gotten her as a joke, but that Harper wore proudly. Her wrist was in a brace from the surgery that had finally corrected the break. Her hair was clean and trimmed, pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked 17. Finally looked her age. Priest handed her an envelope. Inside was a bank statement, the trust account in Harper's name. Balance, $53,847. The remaining inheritance Derek had not stolen, plus another $42,000 raised by Hells Angels chapters across Ohio, Michigan, and Kentucky. That's yours, Priest said. All of it. For college, for trade school, for whatever future you want to build. And there's more. Doc's Hospital is offering you an EMT training program, paid position as a trainee. You'd be following your mother's footsteps, helping people, saving lives. Harper stared at the numbers, at the possibility, at the future that had been stolen and was now being handed back. I don't know what to say. Say you'll use it, Priest told her gently. Say you'll build something beautiful out of everything ugly you survived. Say you'll be happy. Harper hugged him. This man who had lost his own daughter but had chosen to save someone else's. Who had mobilized a brotherhood because he believed protecting the vulnerable was sacred. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me when I was invisible. You were never invisible, Harper. You were just surrounded by people who chose not to look. But once someone really sees you, once someone decides you matter, you can't be ignored anymore. Harper enrolled in the EMT program, started classes in January, found she had her mother's gift, the ability to stay calm in crisis, to see past the blood and panic to the person who needed help. She volunteered at the same hospital where Dr. Morales worked, started running calls with paramedics, saved 3 lives in her first 6 months on the job. She made the honor roll every semester, became president of the EMT student organization, started speaking at high schools about recognizing abuse signs and how to help. But this story is not really about statistics or programs or policy changes. It is about what happens when one person decides to act instead of watch. When someone chooses to kneel on frozen concrete for 8 minutes, even though they are dying themselves. When courage looks like a malnourished teenager refusing to let a stranger die while everyone else just films. And it is about what happens when the people society fears most turn out to be the gentlest protectors. When leather jackets and motorcycle engines become symbols of safety instead of danger. When a brotherhood built on loyalty proves that family is not about blood. It is about who shows up when you are drowning. If you have ever felt invisible, know this: you are not. Someone sees you. Maybe not yet, maybe not today, but there are people in this world who will fight for you the moment you come into focus, who will mobilize, who will stand between you and harm, who will give you their jacket when you are freezing and their protection when you are hunted. There are Harper Quinns everywhere. Kids falling through cracks, adults being abused behind closed doors, people suffering while the world walks past. And most of the time, we do not see them because it is easier to look away. Because getting involved is messy and complicated and might require sacrificing comfort for courage. But here is the truth. You do not need 180 motorcycles to change someone's story. You just need to pay attention, to ask the uncomfortable questions, to call the hotline when something feels wrong, to believe the person who is trembling while telling you something impossible, to be the one who does not walk past. Harper Quinn saved Camila Rivera with CPR her mother taught her. The Hells Angels saved Harper Quinn with the brotherhood their president built. And now, Harper saves others every shift she works, carrying her mother's stethoscope, wearing the knowledge that she survived, proving that trauma does not have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of someone else's salvation. Listen when a child hesitates before going home. Notice when someone is losing weight they cannot afford to lose. Question the stories that seem too perfect, the explanations that feel rehearsed. Care enough to intervene, even if your voice shakes, even if you are wrong, even if it is awkward. Because the only thing worse than being wrong about abuse is being right and doing nothing. Derek Harlan is serving year 1 of 8 in state prison. Harper is 20 years old now, healthy, safe, thriving, still has nightmares sometimes, still flinches at sudden movements, but she is healing, learning that surviving is not the same as living, and she is finally doing both. She keeps her mother's stethoscope in her locker at work, uses it every shift, honors Lauren Brennan's memory by doing exactly what Lauren taught her. Help people when you are the only one who can. And every February 10th, Harper and Camila meet at Riverside Roastery, sit at the same table, order coffee. Remember the day everything changed because one girl refused to walk past suffering and another girl's father understood that protection is the highest form of love. The coffee shop still smells like cinnamon and fresh roasted beans, still gets crowded on Saturday mornings. But now there is a plaque on the wall near the entrance, in honor of Harper Quinn, who taught us that heroes don't always look like what we expect. Sometimes they look like someone everyone else stopped seeing. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear that protective people still exist. Comment below and tell me who was your protector when you needed one, or what you wish someone had done when you were invisible. Because these stories matter, not for the views or the algorithms, but because somewhere right now there is another Harper sitting outside another coffee shop, wondering if anyone will ever see her, if anyone will ever fight for her, if she matters enough to be saved. She does. You do. We all do. And sometimes all it takes is one person choosing to kneel instead of film, to act instead of watch, to be the one who does not walk away. This is Harper Quinn's story. This is the Hells Angels' promise. This is proof that brotherhood is not a word. It is an action. And the ending. The ending is Harper wearing her EMT uniform, responding to a call, saving lives because someone once saved hers. The ending is Camila graduating with honors, healthy and alive because a homeless girl knew CPR. The ending is 180 men proving that the scariest looking people in a room can have the gentlest hearts. That is the story. That is the truth. That is what happens when someone finally looks,